Hi everyone. For homework this week, you should continue working on your title sequence animation, implementing all of the techniques you've learned in the tutorials up until now, with the goal of having around 50% of it complete to turn in on Monday. To submit your homework, you'll be zipping your folder again, just like you did last week, and I won't show you how to do that since we've already gone over it. But once again, I have the zipping instructions right here, and you can go back to last week's homework video to see exactly how I did it. Once you have your zipped folder, you're going to submit it through file drop, and then just like always, you'll take that URL and paste it in the text box in the assignment section in Laulima. When you zip your folder, make sure any new assets you're using this week are in the correct folders, and also be sure to have your After Effects file in the folder as well. Okay, I'm just going to continue working on my title sequence that I started last week to give you an example. Okay, so here's where I left off last week. And I think for this week, what I want to accomplish is get all of my video footage in that I want to use. I also want to put in the rest of my titles, and I think I also want to change my font to something different. I'm leaning more horror movie for this one, so I think I want to change the font up to something a little creepier. Okay, so first thing I want to do is put in my next block of text. So after a Byron Heel production, once that fades out, I think I'll have my actor title come in next. Alright, so to get started, what I'm going to do is just copy this layer, and I'll use that for my next set of text. So with it selected, I'll do Control-C, and then Control-V to paste it. That's going to paste it right over top of the other one. So what I'm going to do is just slide that over. And now it pastes it with our animation keys. And that saves us a lot of time. If I was going to just type out new text with my type tool, I would have to go in and add all of those animation keys to have it fade out. But since they were already on this one, when I copy it over, it copies all of those over as well. So now I can just double click on it and then change what I want it to say. So I'm a big Oscar Isaac fan, so I think I'll pick him for my actor. And I'm just going to move this over to the middle. Again, to find the exact middle, you can click on this icon in the viewer and click Title Action Safe. Now I know where the exact middle is. And I'll just line that up. Now when I play through it, all of my animation keys are already on there. So that saved me a bit of time. Alright, next I think I'll just scale this up a little bit, and I can either do that by hitting S and scaling it in here, or I can go to my character panel and just scale it up here. Maybe something like that size. Alright, so what I want to do next is change my font up to something a little creepier. So I'm just going to double click on my layer to highlight it, and I found a font earlier that I think will work. I think that looks kind of creepy and might suit my movie. So it's a lot bigger than my last font, so I just want to bring the size down. And then next I'm just going to go through and change the font for the rest of my text as well. And I'll scale that down quite a bit as well. And move it to the middle. And also with this text here. Okay, let's just play through that and see how it looks. So mine's loading really slowly at full resolution. I'll just stop that, and I'm going to switch it from full to a quarter size. And that's just going to drop the resolution a bit to make it easier to view, because it'll play through in real time. So now it loads much quicker and plays in real time. Another thing you might want to try if your composition is playing really slowly is come up to Edit, Purge, and then click on All Memory and Disk Cache. So what After Effects does is it creates these temporary cache files that it stores on your computer, and every once in a while you want to delete those because that's going to slow down After Effects. I have 22 gigs of cache files, so that's probably really slowing down After Effects. So I'm going to just hit OK to delete all of those. And now it emptied the disk cache, so it should play a little better. So you might want to just do this every once in a while if you notice it starts to slow down. Alright, so I think I want to have one more video clip in here that my title can go over. I think the main theme of my horror movie is that people are disappearing. So I have some video footage here of an empty bench swinging. And I think that gives you the feeling of missing people or someone's disappeared, just this empty bench. So I'm going to drop that into my composition. Okay, I'm just going to drop my resolution down a little bit just for previewing it, and I'm also going to take off my title action safe. Now I think I want to crossfade again from my leaves into my bench layer here, like I did with the forest fading into the leaves layer. So I'll put my empty bench footage beneath my leaves, and I'll open up the opacity on that layer. I'll turn my stopwatch on. That's going to set a keyframe here, and I'm just going to go forward and fade that down. So now we get a crossfade over into the bench layer. I'm also just going to turn the sound off of my bench layer. I'm going to cover sound in an upcoming tutorial, but for now, I'm just going to turn that off. Okay, I want this to fade in pretty much right when that text fades out. So I'm just going to highlight both of my keyframes and drag them forward. And then I just need to move this layer all the way underneath that, so as it starts to fade out, we can reveal it underneath. I think it could fade a little faster and maybe just a little later. Maybe something like that. Yeah, I think that looks cool. So I'm just going to drag this to my keyframe just to clean things up, and I'll hit U to hide all of my keyframes. Okay, so I think I'm going to use this footage here to put my main title over top of. I'll make a copy of my Oscar Isaac layer since it already has the drop shadow and keys on opacity. Alright, so I'm just going to double click on my text, and I think I'm going to name my movie Disappear. Okay, I'm just going to move that to the middle, and I'll bring my title action safe back in for a second just so I can see where the middle is. I'm going to want this to be larger, so I'll scale it up. Quite big, actually. And put it somewhere like that. Let's see how that looks. Okay, I think that fades in a little slow and a little too soon, so I'm going to slide that back a bit. I'll hit U to show my keyframes, and all of my keyframes are still there because I copied it from an existing layer that had keyframes on it already. And I think I'll have it fade in a little faster as well. So I'm going to move my first keyframe in a bit, and that'll speed it up. Okay, now I just want to figure out when I want it to come in. So let's just play through this and try to figure out the timing. So that's too slow. Drag it forward a bit and try that. I also don't want it to fade off. I'm going to have this stay on right until the end. So what I'm going to do is just delete out the last two keys here. So now it just fades on and it'll stay on. Now I'm going to drag this over just so it stays on for the length of my whole composition. And let's see how that looks. Alright, I think the timing of that works. What I want to do now is maybe just extend my composition a little bit. And you can do this. The minimum is 20 seconds, but if you want to make it longer just for pacing, you can do that. I'll come over to my project panel and right click on the main composition. I'll go to Composition Settings, and this is where I can change the duration. So I think I want to add maybe an extra 5 seconds to it. So I'll set it to 25 seconds and hit OK. Now if I extend my composition, I've got an extra 5 seconds on it. I'll also extend my title here just so it stays on the entire time. Now I'm not going to use the entire 5 seconds that I added to it, but I just wanted to give myself enough working room. I can bring this in and shorten it after I get the length right. Okay, so next after this, what I want is the entire thing to fade out, just like we had the fade in here. So I could create a new solid and fade out from that, but what I'm going to do is just copy my existing fade in layer. So with it selected, I'll do Control C, Control V to paste it. And then I'm going to move it right to the end here. So my keyframes are backwards on it because I had it fading in, so it fades in from black. What I want to do is reverse those so it fades out. So I'll hit U to open up the keyframes, and I could go in and just set this one to 0 and set that one to 100. I'll just undo that. But you can also just swap them. I'm just going to grab this one, move it over a bit out of the way, and I'll grab my last keyframe here and drag it to the front and drag this one to the end. So all I did was swap positions on those keyframes. Now when I hit play, it fades out instead of fading in. Now I just want to figure out the timing of this. How long do I want my main title on before I fade out? So I'm just going to play through it and try to get a feeling for the pacing. Maybe right around there I can fade out. Let's try that. And I think I might want a longer fade out than I have it fading in. So I'm going to extend that and then just drag my final keyframe out a bit. Let's see how that looks. Maybe that's a little too long, so I'll bring that back in a bit. And we might not need it to sit on the title for so long. We'll play through that again. I think that'll work. I like that timing, and we can always adjust that later as we go. So what I'm going to do is just drag this bar over to my last keyframe here. I'm going to right click on it and do trim comp to work area, and that's going to shorten my composition. Alright, there's a lot of color in this, and I think one final thing I want to do for this week is just change it to black and white. Get rid of all this color. So I'll do that using an adjustment layer. First thing I'm going to do is just highlight all of my layers. I want to hide the keyframes, and to do that, I'll just hit U to collapse the ones that had the keyframes on. Alright, so to make an adjustment layer, I'll go up to Layer, New, and select Adjustment Layer. I don't want my text to be black and white. I want to keep it that red color. So I'm going to drop my adjustment layer just above my 3 video clips and not above the text. So now whatever I add to this adjustment layer is just going to affect what's below it. And I also need to drop it just below my New Line Cinema logo as well. Alright, so with my adjustment layer selected, I'll go up to Effect, Color Correction, and I'm just going to select black and white. So now that turned everything underneath it to black and white. Alright, one more thing I want to do this week is just adjust the levels on this video clip here just to give it a little more contrast. To do that, I'll select my bench layer and I'll go up to Effect, Color Correction, and I'll click on Levels. And so that gave us our levels adjustment in the effects panel. If I drag this one over, it's going to darken up more of our shadows, and if I drag this one, it's going to make the lighter colors brighter. And I can just preview it by turning it on and off. Yeah, that looks a lot better. I might also want to add it to this one, and to do that easily, I can just copy it from this layer and paste it on this one. So I'll select it, hit Ctrl-C to copy, and now I'm going to click on my leaves footage, and then Ctrl-V to paste it. So that's too contrasted for this layer, so I'm just going to bring that down a bit, and then I can preview that. Yeah, I think that'll work. Okay, I'm just going to play through this one last time to see how it looks. Alright, cool. I like how that's looking, and this is a good place to stop for this week. So when you're done with your homework for the week, you want to make sure you save it. And then, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you just want to make sure to zip that folder and submit it through the UH file drop. Alright, that's going to be your homework for this week. Let me know if you have any questions.